Welcome to another episode of Message from a Watchman by Symmanayah. This presentation is entitled Scriptures in the Toolbox. Scriptures in the Toolbox. My name is Symmanayah, and I would like to personally welcome you to this presentation. I would also like to take this time to invite you to examine other presentations that I've made that I believe are critical in building fellowship, critical in discussing and conversing with brothers and sisters who share like core beliefs, critical in building the body of Yahusha according to the written and living scriptures. I believe these presentations can be a benefit to you as a believer as we walk this journey. My prayer is that those who take the time to listen to this presentation have examined themselves and asked themselves, are their intentions pure for worshiping and obeying the Most High? Are the intentions sincere when we study His Word, the Scriptures? I would also invite you to ask yourself, have you realized that it is vital to get to know the voice of Yahusha? For in doing so, it will bring clarity that will bring the comfort and understanding and help each of us grow in wisdom and in fellowship. This journey we call life is real, and the clock is ticking down. With that said, shalom. And before we get started into this segment, we will get into the disclaimer. Stay tuned. As I read the disclaimer, this is important, and so you will find it in each video and each presentation. The views expressed in this presentation do not reflect the views of any technological portal I use. My views do not reflect the management and or staff of YouTube, Ustream, Facebook, Talk, or any other such communication portals. Like with any information presented, you are advised to research and seek confirmation. Each of us are held accountable for our own actions and decisions. Let the presentation begin. Welcome. Shalom. Peace. Although shalom may have multiple and diverse meanings, I use it as an endearment of peace. The presentation you are about to watch represents the reflections of Symmanayah. That is me. An individual who seeks to worship and obey the Most High Yahuwah in spirit and in deeds according to written and living scriptures. Each of us, as stated before, each of us must give an account to our actions, and therefore the decisions we make either comes with consequence or benefit. It is Yahusha that is our judge. It is Yahusha, our Mashiach, Messiah, who is our judge, and it will be wise to make sure our actions line up with His written and living word. With that said, let's move on. Scriptures in the toolbox. Let us look at this presentation here. I believe, after years of experience, knowledge, research, and prayer, I have sought the Father to understand more clearly, to grow in maturity in this walk that we call life. And as a result of that, I would like to present to you that the scriptures are very similar to a toolbox. That's right, a toolbox. Now, many of you, before you get offended or bent out of shape or anything, walk with me. Unless your spirit or heart is hardened and you feel that I'm heading down the wrong path, then depart from this presentation. It would be okay. This presentation is not designed to to fuel unrighteous debates, unrighteous communications. But the presentation is designed to possibly bring some enlightenment to those who seek to grow in maturity. And with that said, I believe the scriptures are similar to a toolbox. Let's examine a toolbox. What are the attributes of a toolbox? Well, many of us will all agree that it's a container of some specific size. There are small toolboxes and large toolboxes. And they are designed to hold something. They're designed to hold tools. Tools that would help us to repair something. Tools that we can use to prevent something from breaking down. Tools to bring about a sense of reduced stress and comfort, because we know we have what's necessary to maintain and to repair a thing. So this toolbox, naturally, if it's empty, would be worthless. But a toolbox, more than likely, will have some contents in it, possibly diverse tools. The condition of the toolbox, we would hope that this toolbox, that the tools are functional, that they're clean, that they're possibly organized. Maybe the tools have labels on them, embedded on the tools. We would like to see a toolbox that is reachable or in close proximity, or that, in other words, we know where that toolbox is. But one thing about a toolbox, when we think of a toolbox, one can either be prepared and proactive or scramble frantically looking for tools when the need arises. What's your position? Have you ever given thought to a toolbox? Ask the questions, examine the toolbox, look at the toolbox, become familiar? I would venture to say that with this toolbox, one would also have to have the skill sets to be able to identify the appropriate tool for the appropriate task. One would also have to have the skill sets to know how to use the tools. Would you grab a clamp to hold an eggshell, an egg? Would you grab a fly swatter to stop a raging dog? Would you use your hand or your hands to try to lift a vehicle? I think not. Some of these may seem extreme, but my point is that with a toolbox and the contents, it would be wise for one to have the skill sets and know how to use these tools. Sometimes that may require training. Sometimes one may be self-taught. Oftentimes it's someone that will train you, teach you how to use the tool effectively. And once we would develop confidence in using the tools, we have no doubt of what tool is necessary for preventive maintenance or for making repairs. Think about the toolbox. The toolbox is a friend. We can know how to do everything. We can have all these skill sets. But if we don't have the toolbox and the tools, then those skill sets lay dormant, waiting for balance, waiting for the tools, so that the skill sets can match the tools and we can get the utilization of the things that are contained in the toolbox operational when placed in the hands of a skilled individual, one that's learned, one that knows how to identify. So with this picture painted of a toolbox, we're going to transition over and talk about the scriptures. How are the scriptures likened to a toolbox? We'll discuss that shortly. Let us continue. Let Let us look at scriptures. Scriptures. For many of us who are coming into the light of truth, we have discovered that the book that's widely accepted across the globe, that the label that they put on that book is of pagan origin. And paganism is an abomination. Paganism has fueled distractions and confusion and division amongst those who seek after righteousness. And so I use the term scriptures to identify the compilation from Genesis to Revelation, the writings that were inspired by the Father. Scriptures. The following questions set the stage for engaging the Most High Father in the name of Yahusha HaMashiach. In other words, Yahusha, the Messiah. These questions I want to suggest that we ponder on. Let us ponder on each question with an open heart to worship and obey the Father according to His words. Let us ponder on these questions attentively. What are the scriptures? What are the scriptures? Genesis to Revelation. Are there books missing? Some say 14, some say others. Some say the scriptures include the Apocrypha. I don't know the answer to that part. Do we know that there are some writings missing? Yes, because in the books that are most commonly circulated representing the scriptures, we see mention of other books that are not compiled in what we use to study. Where did they originate? Were the scriptures originally in ancient Hebrew? If so, this was pictures and symbols. How did it come about taking pictures and symbols to be translated into Paleo Hebrew, to modern Hebrew, to what we see today, whether it be in English or Spanish or Chinese? Many of us have come to believe, without a doubt, that the scriptures are the inspired work of Yahuwah, where He inspired His servants, and out of obedience they documented what was necessary to help us establish restoration with the Father and grow in maturity as led by His Spirit. What is the purpose of the scriptures? Have we really given thought or prayer to the entire purpose of the scriptures? I believe the purpose of the scriptures are to aid us in growing in maturity, are to aid us in growing our senses to where we can accurately and precisely identify the voice of the Spirit of Yahusha. I believe the scriptures are that physical manifestation of inspired works of Yahuwah. And those scriptures, the purpose, if we read them and if we allow His Spirit to guide us through them, then we can rightly divide His word. While so many people think you can just take the book, read it, and say it's just as simple as you read it and try to interpret it from an academic perspective, they are sadly mistaken. It's much more to the scriptures. How does one ensure true interpretation? The language in the writings? Who determines the final word? We will talk more and more about the scriptures as we continue in the next segment. Thank you. This concludes part 1 of Scriptures in the Toolbox. Again, this concludes part 1. Stay tuned for part 2 of this playlist.